It's surprising to say we've got sunny skies for you to go racing in here in the IMSA iRacing Sports Car Championship. Delighted that you join us here for the final week of 2024 Season 1. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Ryan Walker as we get set to walk you through all of the action. Ryan, what a crazy schedule it's been for these drivers as we take a look at the 12 weeks that they've gone through, starting at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Tight, twisty circuit, and now we go to a wide, flowing track at Silverstone. The dichotomy between those two tracks exemplified in the schedule you see before you.
Yeah, absolutely. Round one or week one rather, at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's not really a long track, so there was plenty of mayhem going on, and plenty of good racing as well. And then the last race of the season at Silverstone. Such an iconic track, steeped in history, and there's so many series that have raced here in the past, from GT World Challenge to Formula 1 to the WEC, the British Touring Car Championship, you name it, it's probably visited here, and today it is host to the IMSA Sports Car Series.
And that's the great thing about being on iRacing, right, is we can take the series international. Let's not forget, we went racing at the Nordschleife in the end of January. Mugello a couple of weeks ago. Montreal last week. Of course, we didn't cover that. We were covering some of the preview action at Bathurst to get underway for the 12-hour race, and a lot of fun was had for us. We've got a monster field, I think, in store for you here today. GTPs, LMP2s, as well, of course, as the GTDs, all out in force. And these cars, all 9 of them, Ryan, are going to be enabled for rain in the iRacing Tempest system that's going to drop next week, and I think a lot of people are getting ready and looking forward to trialing that all out.
Yeah, definitely, and myself included, I'm looking forward to that. And there's quite a few people I've spoken to. Some people are excited for it, other people are not so excited, but I think for especially the endurance races, Arjuna, I think it's going to throw a spanner in the works, and I think it should make the races unpredictable.
It's definitely going to put drivers on the edge of their seats. We've been trying to figure out, even like on broadcast, how we're going to represent some of that information, and I have no doubt we'll be learning a little bit more along with the drivers once that system rolls out, and next week as we get underway. Qualifying rolls its way on through. We're into the closing stages of the session, and already currently sits as a Williams Esports 1 and 2, and then BS Competition 3rd, and Casey Kerwin sitting in 4th. So Jaden Munoz, Alexander Spetz, Thomas Laboudelet in that GTP class, and then down in the LMP2s, it's only 3/10 or so between Ari Kokodilos and Benjamin Frigero. GTD still waiting for some drivers to set times. Maciek Milnek just displaced from the top by Kerem Havers in the SimRC machine, but 27 thousandths between them. How important, Ryan, do you think qualifying is here, especially knowing the nature of multi-class racing at Silverstone?
I think qualifying is definitely going to be vital around Silverstone, especially with multi-class traffic. I mean, when it comes to lapping the GT3 cars, especially when you head up to that Maggots and Beckett section, if you get caught up behind any GT3 cars or LMP2 cars even, and you get held up through that whole section, you're going to lose a whole bunch of time. So qualifying, I think it'll be a key part of the race, but I think also as well, even though it's not an endurance race, I think patience and just being careful is going to be absolutely key.
Patience, care, multi-class racing, iRacing. See if those words go together. Vince Cusi's jumped into the chat, and, well, he's not just jumped in the chat, he's jumped into the session and has qualified provisionally 7th in the LMP2 category. Very interested to see what paint scheme he's going to have on display for us. He's been teasing it, and I say teasing, trying to get us scared, Ryan, so I hope your eyes are prepared.
Yeah, definitely prepared, and I think, I've just got a feeling it should be a good race, but I think it's going to be a little bit manic.
A little bit manic, to say the very least. One final time this season's drivers will turn their way down towards the starting grid. Short formation lap should see them then ready to go for the 45 minutes of racing that lie ahead. And of course, with the pit stop either side of us and seeing the checkered flag, who will come out on top? It's time to find out. Trackside, let's take you through the starting grid. It's Williams Esports out front, and helpfully, they've differentiated their paint scheme. So kudos to them. Munoz with the black front end, Alexander Spets with the white front end, and over a tenth of a second between them. Flying lap time from Jaden Munoz. And then Acuras towards the front, Thomas Labudale alongside Casey Kerwin with Diego Merli, and then Kostiantin Romenko through the top 6 starting positions in, of course, this GTP formation. Back, of course, then through the field to the likes of Taylor Mills, Rafa Pisani, Ryan O'Connor in the Precision Racing Esports car, and then Luca Penachia rounding out your top 10 in the prototypes. Davey van der Wacker, Alexis Henry, round out the top 12 in class, and then George Sazonov Vo and Maxime Gaultier, Antoine Blankers, and Martin de Witt round out the 16 cars that will roll in, let's be honest, what is mostly Acuras, just one Cadillac interrupting the bunch. Ari Crocodilus in what is a Max Eru special livery from the front of the LMP2 class. Race Clutches Benjamin Frigero alongside Gabriel Roos in the WSR Esports butt kicker colors. Then has Ruben Lasso for company in the one of two Zenith Esports machines inside of the top 6. George Robinson alongside Alexi Nogue in that number 11 machine. Vince Cusi, that's a rather interesting livery. He's got some wet toast on it. Can't wait to see what else we'll figure out there. Ewan Marshall rolls alongside him, though. Sylvain Moran, Matthias Bortej, Sando Kusk, and then Matthew Sadekis Trivet with some work to do from back in 12th position. That's your LMP2 class. Over in the GTDs and hoping just to survive, Kerem Havers in the Team 75. Bernard by SimRC Colors is alongside Maciek Milnek in the Netrex machine. Ilya Pletzkalo is then third with Tom Brown alongside for, I guess, the Brabham Academy. Hugh Shrink and Jerome Charvet round out the top 6 starting positions, with João Alfonso for Olympus Esports alongside Vinicius Neto, Joe Newman, Leon Kohler, and then Damir Makuvos and Henry Jarvalainen round out your top 12. Still going back to Danny Sabi, Adrian Hetstedt, Chris Ferragino, Dan Carpenter, and Noel Jenkinson. Always great to get the mouthful of names out of my system. Ryan, they're heading off in towards what is the final section. Pace car already off and away. Expectations then quickly as we get ready to go.
Expectations, well, yeah, like I said, it's going to be a crazy race, and I think Alexander Spets, I think he could be one to look out for as we're just about to go green, Arjuna.
So Williams Esports 1 and 2. Ryan's picked the second car in line to get underway and get a good start, but here we go at the home of British Motorsports. Tidy through the field as the GTPs begin their run in through the village section. Fanning out, aggressive from Labudale, trying to maybe mix it up, but Casey Kerwin on the outside is going to hold him honest. Let's not forget, all the classes start at the exact same time, so as these GTPs get underway, LMP2s have also had what I can tell you was a rather tidy start. GTDs as well, relatively single file now, as already a bit of a spin for the GTPs. Hybrid spools up. George Savono runs out to the back of the field, but this is where into the old turn 1 section, into Maggotts and Beckett's. We'll see who's feeling brave at the start of this race.
Absolutely, and yes, some other cars having issues as well, so some drivers maybe just be caught out in cold tyres, and yeah, as you see some of the LMP2 cars coming through as well, and Maggotts and Beckett's is pretty much that section where it sorts the men out from the boys, and yeah, as the GTPs come up there now, and it's still at the moment Jaden Munoz leading from Alexander Spets.
Is it going to then be behind LMP2s having to deal with some of the slow GTP machines? It's allowed your race leader to build up a bit of a margin, as you can see bottom of your screen. Hybrid kicking into gear and propelling those GTPs slightly further in front of the P2s. GTDs, keep in mind, of course, that they're all just now waiting for the first cycle through of the GTP traffic. Can only imagine how crazy, how congested that's going to be. And because they all start at the same time, GTDs hang back slightly. Ryan, you can see bottom right corner as the leaders come around to end the opening lap. GTDs only halfway round the lap and coming through Maggotts and Beckett's.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it won't be too long before the GTD cars get lapped, possibly. I'd probably say another 5 or 6 laps possibly, but as the GTPs complete lap 1, it's still Munoz leading from Spets, and in the background there is Casey Kerwin as well. Kerwin, a name that you're familiar with, Arjuna, and he raced in the IMSA Esports series.
Absolutely, he's passed Thomas Leboudelet in the BS Plus competition car, who's very much a track mania driver. We saw him in the LMP3's iRacing Roar, hunting down a IMSA Esports Global Championship race winner. Casey Kerwin, of course, paired up with Owen Carroll. Here's a look at the replay. You can already see a bit of smoke in the background as one of the cars went off before they even got down into Brooklands and Luffield. But then this was what you saw in the background, Ryan, just cars running into each other and chaos.
Yeah, just drivers being too eager, too aggressive, not leaving enough room, and unfortunately, as you saw there, it just ended up causing a bit of a concertina effect, and just drivers spinning all over the place, and someone else just came through there and just about got clipped.
That was just the concertina. Unfortunately, not much you can do in that train. And then through the final corner, what happens to Rafa Pisani? He gets hit from the inside, and famous line through that corner, of course, Hamilton goes through, or through goes Hamilton. Not such a dramatic line when it's down for 12th or 13th position in the GTP class. Similar sort of a situation as cars slip on through. Plenty of support for Vince Cusi in the chat, but right now I mentioned GTPs might be getting in the mix of some of these LMP2 contenders. As it stands, race leader hasn't been able to totally break the draft, an important thing at a track like Silverstone.
Absolutely, and as you see here, around Silverstone, you probably think if you get a good start and you can break away, you can build up a bit of a gap, but the slipstream, especially around Silverstone on some of these straights, is so strong that it's hard to break away, and sometimes you can be stuck in a bit of a pack, as you see in the LMP2 class here, with the battle for the lead going on at the moment, with a 4-car battle at the moment, and some familiar names in this battle as well, with Ruben Lasso and Gabriel Ruse as well, a name that I'm familiar with, and Ruse, a driver for the WSR Esports team.
He's got a bit of damage to the right front of the LMP2 car as well, so just keep an eye on that if it's going to slow him down slightly, as Benjamin Frigero well up the road now and almost actually clear of the drafting range, so it's going to be behind that those all look to try and close. There is, by the way, Sir Vince himself. He's got a map of Sebring on the car. I see some anime, some wet toast, unfortunately, as well. Now, I'm not sure if he's trying to give us a subliminal message that Ewan Pavey is very much incorrect and we should not repave Sebring International Raceway. See if we can get some words from Vince at the end of this race as to what he's trying to get done with that livery. Back over to the GTPs, by the way, because 1 and 2 starting to break away, and this is where teammates probably running very similar setups. Maybe they got a bit more speed and performance. Casey Kerwin now 1.5 seconds back.
Absolutely. Kerwin currently in 3rd place, and I think Kerwin, he probably wants to try and keep up with both Williams Esports cars at the moment, but maybe another part of him, or in the back of his mind, is maybe realising that both cars in front of him have just got a slight bit more pace, and the two teammates in front of him are just happy to run line astern at the moment as the rider on board as well. So you see there with Budo, Spets, Kerwin and Leboudelet as well in 4th place. So the top 4 still relatively close together, not close together, but still, as you see there, in the same shot. Yeah,
keeping each other honest. First cycle through of traffic, of course, is always the most hectic and most frenetic, because the GTD's equally backed up as well, I should say. And take a look at them as they run through turn number 1. So there is, of course, still some ground to be made up, but they are starting to close. Of course, don't forget, you can follow along with live timing by heading to timing.RaceSpotTV if you're trying to keep abreast of all of the action, especially some of these drivers further back in the GTP class. There's 4 cars going at it for 12th position as Maxime Gauthier holds on now to that top honor in the battle. Pisani down to 13th. Van der Wacker then runs in 14th, and I always find it interesting which cars, Ryan, drivers choose to make their allegiance with. We've seen in this season the Acura be very much a prevalent choice, hoping that next season we see a bit more change in the BOP and therefore the running order.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some drivers probably choose a car based on the BOP. Some other drivers might choose a car maybe just based on how comfortable they are with. I mean, myself, I've done some races in the GTPs, and I've always found myself to be comfortable with the Cadillac. I mean, it might not always be the quickest car, but it's one that I found I'm always comfortable with. And sometimes in a race, that's that's probably the main thing. There's always a big contact there.
That's Rafa Pisani getting it just a little bit wrong. Maxime Gauthier able to see it coming, avoids getting ran over. Davy van der Wacker takes 12th as a result, but chaos further back down through the field as we just get closer and closer to seeing the inevitable traffic run. Let's jump on board, Ryan, and, well, talk us through this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just looking at the replay now, and it looks like he just went in a bit too, just carried too much speed and just couldn't get the car slowed down. And unfortunately, there was only one thing that was going to happen, and he pretty much just pinballed into another car in front of him. And it's such an easy mistake to do in that corner because you want to try and make a move, but with these cars, you're going so quickly, sometimes you just can't get the car slowed down enough, and unfortunately, that ended up in contact.
You can't yet see the GTDs. Oh, there you go. You can now, just at the front of the shot at the bottom right corner of your screen. And so we are about to get to that point where GTD, GTP traffic going to be a cycle. Kerem Havers has already built a 1.9 second margin over Maciek Milnek at the front. So SimRC Team 75 breaking away from NetRex, and keep an eye on the gaps behind then as Jaden Munoz comes up to the first of the traffic. Jinx left, and that was a bold call. Gets past two, and now his teammate gets lost and has to now give up some ground. And this is the give and take, Ryan, of traffic.
Yep, it's the give and take of traffic, and also the give and take of multi-class racing. And Spets will be feeling really frustrated at that slightly because he got held up while his teammate in front of him managed to gain some ground. But as he come through the turn one, and a bunch of GT traffic in front of them, and I think Spets will be trying everything not to lose too much time and get by the traffic as quickly as possible as he goes around the outside. And from my experience, going around the outside in that corner, you've got to hold your breath because sometimes the GT car, when they're on their inside, sometimes they track out and sometimes they forget you're there. And these GTD cars, they don't have as much aerodynamic downforce as, say, your GTPs or LMP2 cars.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, you just have to recognize as well that we probably have a couple of different skill levels in these official races, even with what is seemingly a healthy strength of field. Maybe Alexander Spets, top level iRacing driver, has a bit more aggressive mindset to traffic than some of those drivers he's dealing with. Goes up the inside, but I think that was well saw by Hugh Schurinick, I think that would have been, who's now got a bit of a margin up towards Tom Brown to try and close through Magnussen and Beckett. Spets just places the car in such a way that he's not going to lose time, and as Jaden Munoz in the black end Williams Esports Fanatec livery now gets chalked up behind. Third place, Ilya Spescalo, Maciek Milnek, Kerem Havers, the final two machines to work past in the line. It's got that Spider-Man liveried entry to work past. These two have built up a gap by being clinical, Ryan, but not aggressive necessarily through traffic. Yes, they went to maybe places that you wouldn't feel comfortable going, but nothing over the top.
Nothing over the top, just nice and precise through the traffic and not aggressive, just being very precise through the traffic and timing their moves there to perfection. And it sounds like a bit of a silly analogy, but watching them through the traffic, it sort of reminds me of the way Alan McNish used to go through traffic as well in real life. He was just so not aggressive, but he timed his moves perfectly.
And I wonder if it's now going to allow these two to start to fight in and amongst themselves. We're still a good 20 odd minutes away from seeing these drivers need to come down to pit lane. There is a pit stop that we will see, not because it's required in the rules and regulations, but there's a maximum fuel capacity added to these cars that then actually impacts, of course, how long they can run from there. Back over to the GTDs. Let's keep an eye on them because, of course, they have plenty of fights to show us, and as that's why Afonso trying to go the long way around in the Olympus Esports machine, I believe. It's got Hugh Schuring still trying to hold on. Joe Newman, Vinicius Neto, Leon Kohler. It's a long line behind, and now the LMP2s, or the final, I should say, GTP, still trying to work their way through.
Absolutely. So basically, the GTPs, you see, look at the speed difference of the GTPs. That's just unreal, and they speeding by the GTD traffic, and they looking at Afonso at the moment. Oh, someone's off in the wall.
It's Tom Brown was that from fourth position? It was by himself. Now, was there traffic involved? The Badman machine does look like it got out without too much of a concern.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if that was contact or if it was just maybe just lost it by himself. As they look at the replay now, and it looks like he comes through, and it looks like a bit of I think it might have just been a bit of slight maybe side-to-side contact there, and they just unfortunately got slightly tagged into the wall. But it looks like he might have just got away with it.
The GTP, of course, trying to avoid picking up a off-track for running too wide onto the AstroTurf. Tom Brown, GTD always wants to slightly, I don't want to say understeer, but it pushes through that corner. And so potentially they're tracked out just a bit too much into the path. Now Gabriel Roos is going to come down to pit lane. Now, is this because he thinks it's better to avoid coming through traffic? Is this, Ryan, a strategy masterclass?
I think it could be a bit of strategy, because obviously, as you see there, he's still got that right front damage on the spotter, not the spotter, but the front end. But so I wonder if he's coming in, decided to make that call to pit early and maybe try and get some of that damage repaired, but also as well not to get caught up in traffic. But with that slight front end damage, he'll probably lose a few seconds at least. See
if that is a good call or not. Take a look at the replay of what's going to be. GTP is still working past, and then as Tom Brown continues to run, he gives a bit of a hip check there to Adrian Hetstedt, and as he rejoins, there comes the LMP2s into shot, and I gotta say, about as safe as you could make that without losing too much time. So I think everyone's going to get through there without too much of a complaint. So Gabriel Roos off and away after what was, and keep this in mind as well going into the later stages of this race, 12.2 seconds of a pit stop. So a bit of a benchmark from which to work. But Ryan, he's at a disadvantage in that, especially when you're not the fastest class, you don't know how many laps down you're going to go compared to the overall leader of the race, and you could therefore need to put one more extra lap of fuel at this point just to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking as well. He's probably had to put in maybe 1 lap extra of fuel, or maybe 2 lap extra, just in case, just to be safe. But I think I don't know. He might have to fuel save possibly, but he might have just got away with it possibly. But as you look at the two GTP leaders still at the top of the screen, still together at the bottom of the screen, we've still got the LMP2 cars close together and starting to come through more GTD traffic as well. So yeah, this is part of the track where you don't want to get held up too much, and I think RaceSpot's LMP2 car manages to get by safely heading onto the home straight. But as you see there, look at the line of traffic as well, just so close together.
There's a couple more LMP2s that are coming down to the pit lane. Benjamin Frigero has to very quickly jink right, and then almost off into the grass. It's going to set up a move behind him, and watch out! Oh, in the rearview mirror, he almost gets centers. That was Joe Newman, Hoib Shrink, that just about hold on to it, but this is frenetic. This is relentless as well. LMP2 car is going to just stretch their legs and say goodbye to those fighting in behind, but the fact that there's still a relatively long line of GTDs, your race leader hasn't been totally able to break away by any sort of consideration as well. And GTD class still wide open and having to be very, very safe through Luffield and Brooklands.
Yep, and this is pretty much the RaceSpot's LMP2 car just about got clipped there. But yeah, Luffield's one of those corners that you can go around outside of GT cars, but you've got to hope that they see you and they stick on the inside, because it's as you know, they can track out and push wide. But at the moment, I have to say, Arjun, the racing throughout the field in the early stages has been relatively clean. Yeah,
not being a normal sort of multi-class affair, as that's a big Sadakist. Oh, what have you done? And now chaos. Vince Cusi almost stayed out of it. But Ewan Marshall as well couldn't quite pick out which GTD it was. Think it was Hoib Shrink, unfortunately. But Ryan, is that a commentator's curse or what? Come on.
I think I've just cursed them, so I think I'll leave you to it, Arjuna. But
Lewis doesn't believe in the commentator's curse. Someone clip this and please send it to him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember Lewis McGlade saying something about there's no commentator's curse, and I think unfortunately, Lewis, I've just proved your point wrong.
Well, he's going to make the claim that there's no commentator's curse. There's just unfortunate poor driving. Poor Matthew Sadakis Trivet. This is the problem when you get slightly offline, and he was trying to hold on. We will have to take another couple of looks at what happened from Vince Cusi's perspective, because Ryan, he had done a decent job initially of slowing down and trying to check up out of the chaos.
Yeah, he tried to check up, and I think, again, it's just unfortunately through Marcus and Beckett's, if everything just bunches up and you get that concertina effect, and unfortunately, yeah, he's just an unfortunate victim in that accident, and yeah, as soon as it started to bunch it up and checking up, it's just mayhem ensued. And
so it was Ewan Marshall that came in and tagged, I think, Vince as well. Here's the look on board. He just sees smoke, and to be fair to him, he's just trying to pick a direction to go in, and instantly the steering damage. You can see the wheel just kind of going straight as well. Clearly not all right, and so I think our first 2 retirements, poor Vince Kusi, who's straight into the YouTube chat, along with Hoib Schurink, who will unfortunately also probably be a DNF. Ewan Marshall as well, just waiting in pit lane and waiting to see what's going to happen with him. As meanwhile, say hello to the GTP leaders once again. You can see them just working through now the old pit straight up towards Copse Corner, which is the top left of the track map on your screen. So they're about to come back around to lap the GTDs once again, and the margin to third position, Ryan, has grown to about 4 seconds, and Casey Kerwin, I think, now more worried about Thomas Leboudelet in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this point, Casey's not worrying about trying to keep up with the 2 leads in front of him. He's more worried about what's behind him as we ride on board with Thomas now through Maggots and Beckett's, and I think just trying to keep up with Casey Kerwin, and I think Kerwin as well. I think he's maybe just sticking to a plan as well. But I think just in general, I think it's just fair place. It's probably the best he can hope for today, unless the 2 leads in the front of him get caught up. But as right on board with Kerwin, quite a big name in the Twitch community and the iRacing community, and yeah, always one of those drivers Arjuna that seems to just able to jump into anything from NASCAR to open wheel cars, even sports cars, and he can just be on the pace straight away.
Yeah, but the problem is he's forgotten about his livery for today. So I'm going to help him out here, Casey. Okay, we're gonna cross out Team Penske here. We'll get another color pen. Let's go with red. And now I've got to try and write in very, very good characters with a mouse. It's never easy. Spire, motor. I'm trying to speed this up if you can't tell. There we go. New livery for Casey Kerwin. How do you rate it?
I give it 10 out of 10.
Oh, Ryan's too kind. But that's beside the point. Of course, Casey joined up with the team Spire guys for 2024. He was with XZ, of course, the last handful of years, represented them in the IMSA Esports Championship, but looking forward to seeing what he can do alongside Malik Ray moving forward. Vince Kusi also says, first time I think I've ever seen Casey Kerwin in not a Cadillac here in this GTP class, so interesting just to see that. Back to the traffic we go. There's some LMP2s to keep an eye on as well. I don't think we've seen our leaders this close for quite a while. We ride on board with Jaden Munoz up towards Stowe, cambered off at its apex. He's going to have to hold his fire behind the number 26 is behind. Oh. Danny Sabi goes around in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I caught a bit of smoke in the background there, and it looks like it might have been a slight bit of contact there in the background. But yeah, again, Spet's just not having the luck with the traffic. But as I look at the replay there, and it looks like just went for the move and or maybe just didn't go for the move, but just went in too hot and tagged the back, and unfortunately, such an easy mistake to make because you're carrying so much speed, then all of a sudden you've got to slow down. But as I look back here at the GTPs, there's still GTD traffic, and it looks like the top 2 are GTP still close together, and they managed to get through the traffic safely again. But again, Spets I think if I was him, I would be getting slightly frustrated, but at the same time, you can't afford to get too frustrated, otherwise you just end up making silly mistakes.
He's waiting for his moment. Casey Kerwin, by the way, came down pit lane, so elected to try and maybe just get out of some of the traffic that they were going to cycle through. 14.9 seconds stationary for him. Another number just to keep in mind moving forward as more of these GTPs start to roll down pit lane. Austin Young, I saw him, by the way, make the comment that BOP not favoring anything that isn't necessarily an Acura as well. We check in with the only Porsche in the field, and it's just gone around.
Absolutely, and yeah, was I seeing Fins there? I'm sure I saw an Audi livery on a Porsche. That's
Yes. Sacrilege.
no, I was going to say that as well, but I think at the same time it actually suits it. As yep, just loses it under braking and just lost the rear under rotation, and again just a case of carrying too much speed.
I guess technically Audi, Porsche, under the same family brand, right? So, like, you know, could be worse. Heard the klaxon go off, so that's another driver down to pit lane. And that's Ilya Carlo from third in the GTD class. So haven't really talked much about them. It's held relatively constant with Kerem Havers in the Team 75 Bernard by RC Machine running there in the lead. Maciek Milnek in the Netrex Grand Prix car, watching as Thomas Laboudelet now tries to go around his outside through the first part of the village section. Ryan, how long have you been sim racing?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think I first started sim racing in general. I started back in 2007, but iRacing I started back in 2011, I believe. So I've been part of the iRacing service for pretty much an eternity.
So you've been sim racing since 2007. Netrex Grand Prix have been a team since 1998.
What?
Yeah, I had to pause to emphasize that.
Yeah, I kept thinking it was the early 2000s they started, but jeez, that's going back some time.
I'm going on 30 this year, as much as I don't want to admit it. I was 4 in 1998. I was not thinking about sim racing, so it's always great to see Netrex Grand Prix, who don't traditionally race on iRacing, come and join us, and to be fair, fairly competitive as well. Not like Maciek Milnek's a slow poke by any means. 8,000 I rating, more than double what I have. Jaden Munoz, Alexander Spetz. Since they continue to run now with, of course, Kerwin and a couple of the others having come down pit lane to avoid traffic, to expect them to go until the fuel tank is dry. But you mentioned Spetz maybe getting a bit frustrated. Ryan, would you be thinking about maybe coming in a little bit off-cycle compared to your teammate if you wanted to try and make a move happen? He's in a great spot as well, let's not forget, to be saving some fuel.
Yeah, that's the thing. Spetz is in a good position to save fuel, but on the other hand, if he feels he can get by Munoz, it's maybe worth pitting early, maybe trying an undercut and see if you can get some clear track, put some quick laps down, and see if you can jump him in the pit stops. So I wonder if both these drivers will be discussing that on the Discord or whatever they use for communication. So, but you never know. Spetz could try something different and they pull a bit of a sneaky move.
I mean, he's close enough, and in traffic, let's not forget, anything can happen. Vince Cusi, by the way, is going to leave the pit lane and try and salvage some safety ratings, so best of luck to him. Has left the YouTube chat, rejoined the chat. Not often something you can say in the world of Friday night primetime. Usually when you talk to someone in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, that's coming up tomorrow. During a race, it's a similar sort of a situation. Not ideal. Past Gabriel Roos, who, let's not forget, came in a bit early, decided to try and come off sequence, and one of your leading LMP2 cars is now coming down the box as well. So here comes Ari Korkodilos. Benjamin Frigero is going to stay out there and inherit the race lead. Keep an eye on them as your race leaders pass that bit of traffic. And is one of them, Ryan, going to come into pit this time by?
I don't know. I'll be interested to see. Will Spetz dive into the pits? Will either of them dive into the pits? Nope. They go around one more time. So I think you're correct, Arjuna. I think both these drivers are going to pretty much go around until they run the tanks dry.
Can see that there's plenty of LMP2 cars in pit lane, so actually these two are going to have some clean air with which to work before they next have to go into traffic, and so that's a pretty good illustration. It's just the 9, the race leader in effect, Korkodilos, that sits now in front of them. Margin between him and Gabriel Roos, 5 seconds or so. I think that's basically what it was at the start of the pit stop cycle, so it doesn't really seem like there's been a big winner, a big loser in that situation. Last time by, though, relatively slow lap for these drivers. Smoke off of the run onto the back straightaway as well, so I'm sure there's been a little bit more chaos. 45 cars started, still seemingly have 42 out there and running, so we've seen a bit of drama, but it's something that I have said a lot, Ryan. Silverstone is actually quite a good track for multi-class racing.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic track for multi-class racing, and I think in my opinion, I think it doesn't get enough love or enough use when it comes to multi-class racing. But I think it's one of those tracks as well that sometimes it can be annoying because obviously in the old turn one, it's so easy to run wide to get an off track, and some places it's easy to get a slow down as well. So it's one of those tracks that some people love it, some people hate it. But me personally, I love racing around the place, and anything GT cars, prototypes. It's one of my favourite tracks.
And track limits became just that little bit worse, didn't they, as well, when Mercedes, the Mercedes Petronas Formula One team partnered up with iRacing to deliver not one but two modern Formula One cars to the service, and also at the same time made the track limits maybe a bit more appropriate to what they are in the real world, whether you like it or not. It is what they felt was a more accurate representation, especially for the cars that were being brought to the platform. At those tracks. Here comes Diego Merli into pit lane, so from 4th position in class, increasingly less and less drivers left out there and yet to come down pit lane. 6 in the GTD class, 2 in the LMP2 class, and now just 5 in the fastest prototypes, this GTP class, where, of course, we're not far away, Ryan, from the 12 hours of Sebring, both here on iRacing and in the real world, let's be honest. But in the real world, plenty of excitement because a new GTP contender in the form of the Lamborghini is joining the fun.
Yep, and you talk about the Lamborghini GT or basically GTP or hypercar, whatever you want to call it. It's also making its debut in the World Endurance Championship this weekend at Equator. So yeah, it's a car that I've been keeping an eye on. I've been looking forward to it for some time. It sounds awesome. It looks awesome, and it's got the traditional Lamborghini green as well. And as the GTP leaders come through, Magus and Beckett, and go by a GTD car as well. But yeah, the Lamborghini, it just looks awesome.
I guess they skipped Daytona because it's a rough way to introduce a car. I mean, last year's Rolex 24 was difficult for some, basically all, I should say, of the manufacturers. And so they've got a bit more time to test. Let's see how the weekend for them this weekend goes. Of course, building up to seeing that car more and more. 15 minutes or so left on the clock. When are we going to see the final drivers down to pit lane? Here comes Laboudelet. He hits his marks. Doesn't have to worry about speeding for him. So we'll keep an eye on how long and how efficient he is in the stop. Where's Casey Kerwin? Already coming down the back straightaway and up in towards Stowe.
Yep, excuse me. I think Kerwin should easily take his position back when after the pit cycles, and he's just come down to the final couple of corners. And interesting, Arjuna. Thomas is changing tyres as well. I'm surprised by that, considering it's only a 45-minute race.
I think that illustrates and shows his lack of iRacing experience potentially, because it's going to cost him some time in the pit lane. I mean, watch, Kerwin's already gone in towards the village section, and still Laboudelet sitting there and waiting to be released. And so, not sure if there was a little bit of an error in judgment with what service to take, but it's going to slightly cost what was ultimately proving to be what was not a too bad performance in terms of speed itself. A couple of replays to take a look at. There's been some chaos out on track. Can't quite figure out what it is just from the timing screen, and so the videos will have to tell us more. GTD's battling in towards Brooklands and Luffield. 36 tags the back end by itself. So that's Leon Kohler that's gone around and made things difficult for himself. And then there's a GTP car, I should say, excuse me, that's off into the gravel. And is that at turn 1, Ryan?
I was about to say, is that turn 1? It looks like turn 1. I wonder if it's maybe, as I look at the replay now, that's the old turn 1. Oh, it just loses it in mid-corner and just tags the wall, and that's such an easy thing to do and an easy mistake to make, because you're going so quick, and then sometimes the car will grip up, and then sometimes the car just loses rear grip, and it just snaps mid-corner, and unfortunately that's what happened there.
I meant old turn 1, you are correct. So Cop's the victim, or rather the taker of a victim, and now as we see pit stops, it's Alexander Spetz who intriguingly is going a bit long. Jaden Munoz now down and into his box. See how long of a pit stop it's going to be for him. He is also up on the jacks, interestingly, so keep that in mind. Laboudelet was stationary for 54.8 seconds. I don't think Jaden Munoz will be that long, no. 13.8, much more efficient, and he's going to be released. Well, look at all of that traffic he's going to have to deal with. Fortunately, he might be able to get past the two battling GTDs. No, he's going to get caught out, and now has to go wide, loses even more time, Ryan.
Yeah. Oh, this is not. Oh, Munoz.
And now Munoz is around, tangles with an LMP2 car, and to be fair, not much that Jaden Munoz could do in that situation.
Yeah, I think Munoz was trying to not lose too much time in the outlap and wanted to get by the GTD traffic as quickly as possible, but yeah, unfortunately he tried to get by them and it just didn't go according to plan on his outlap, and that's the advantage to Alexander Spets.
So you can see initially he saw it coming, he opened the steering and there was some contact. He tries to rejoin, and while you can say the LMP2 car should have given some more room, you can also say that Jaden Munoz should have maybe rejoined a little bit more safely. Racing across the board is hard, especially when you have 3 different classes racing together. This look will show that, the LMP2 car is just trying to hold tight on the Audi. Unfortunately, Munoz pays the price.
Yeah, I think Munoz has just been a little bit. I can understand you don't want to lose too much time, but I think he was just being a little bit too eager there, and that's allowed Casey Kerwin up into second place as well. And yeah, I thought it all settled down, but yeah, towards the end of this race, Arjuna, it's all started to just kick off again.
Yeah, we were hoping for fireworks between the Williams Esports teammates in terms of wheel-to-wheel close racing, but now just waiting for Spets to go off and away. It's 13.8 seconds, identical, so clearly Williams Esports have hit the fuel number that they wanted to in both cars, and just de-risking the race, avoiding coming down at the same time. 5 seconds then will split the leaders. Kerwin rises up out of 1 and 2, and it's going to be a bit of a gap to Jaden Munoz, who's now almost 10 full seconds behind. That was an incident that cost him a whole bunch of time. Let's focus in on LMP2 then for a second, because intriguingly, we're coming down towards almost 10 minutes left to go, and we're still waiting here, Ryan, for the race clutch number 7, Benjamin Frigero, to come down to pit lane.
Yep, Frigero just all by himself at the moment, and yeah, this is a perfect position for him to be in, with a clear track behind, clear track in front of him. And when it comes to his pit stop, he should not have any issues. Is he going to dive into the pits? Yes, he is. So Frigero pretty much one of the last LMP2 cars to make his pit stop, as we're coming up to about 10 minutes remaining in this race.
As our view gets blocked of him as he rounds the pit building. Where is his main rival, you might wonder? The number 9 machine of Ari Korkodilos. There he is, coming down, up towards Stowe, I should say. It's one of those weird changes in elevation that just suddenly comes at you. One of those wonderful Max Iru liveries. Bryce, the master behind the Photoshop file there. Frigero's got a way to go before he can actually get off the limiter, and so as much as it's only an 11-second stop for him, a little bit shorter than Korkodilos, it's only going to be as we work up to turn 1 and out of turn 2 that we really know. Off and away goes Frigero, and I've got to say, overcuts worked a treat. The margin between them, 3 full seconds, even though Frigero was almost 2 seconds longer, Ryan, on the pit lane itself.
Absolutely. So that clear track in front of him absolutely worked well for him. He had no traffic in front of him, so he could pretty much get to the pit, come into the pits, have a good pit stop, and like you say, 2 seconds longer. But look at the gap behind him. He's got a good margin behind him, and I think he's absolutely played it to perfection. So
strategy important. Camera flicks over to Kerem Havers in the Team 75, Bernard by SimRC colors. Spider-Man's blue and red instead of the Bumblebee yellow and black that SimRC may be a bit more traditionally known for racing in. Maciek Milnek passed by what does seem to be a rather intense little battle amongst some prototypes, so they all just shuffle off and away. Now in the final 10 minutes of this race, though, you would have to assume gaps opened up at the front of the field. Ryan, this is the section of the race that you try and take as little risk as possible.
Absolutely. We've pretty much 8 minutes left in this race. It's one of those things is you can't. From my experience, I just keep telling myself just get to the end and not get caught up in any incidents or have any issues. Just try and get to the end of the race and see where I end up. But I think it's. Again, I don't want to jinx it, but it's pretty much settled down again, and we're still. Well, on the other hand, we've got this battle for 4th place going on at the moment in LMP2, and Lasso and Robertson and Alessi Nog behind them as well. So plenty of racing going on at the moment, but I think at the end, towards the end of the race, it's one of those things you don't want to take too many risks, especially if you're in a good position.
Yeah, you can, of course, see that gap back to 6th position. Teammate Ruben Lasso not going to get some assistance from Alexei Nogue behind, and George Robinson's going to just keep getting closer and closer. That was a little bit deep under the brakes. Casey Kerwin closing behind, going to just put them a lap down, quote unquote, in relation to his number 3 machine as he gets onto the hybrid, running out onto this short Wellington straight. Track dives down in towards Brooklands and Luffield as you get onto the brakes, and Kerwin only gets 1. The speed differential between the LMP2s and the GTPs only actually around 5 seconds in terms of lap time. When you're talking around a 1:42 for the GTPs, the one thing to remember, I always have to remind myself, Ryan, is going back to the introduction of the GTP hypercars. LMP2 actually had to be slowed to allow the hypercars to run at the target speed they wanted.
Absolutely, and I think they had to do something similar in the real life IMSA series. They had to slow the LMP2 cars down slightly just because they had I believe they had similar straight line speed to the GTP cars as well. So, but yeah, slowing the speed down for the LMP2 cars in real life, it didn't seem to make that much difference. It was still great racing nevertheless, and I think yeah, on iRacing as well, the LMP2 cars, they might not have as much speed as the GTP cars, but in a straight line, I think they're just about evenly matched. They're close to be evenly matched anyway. Yeah,
some might complain that we only have the Dallara, but at least it means there's no complaints about BOP. We can leave it at that. GTD, there is BOP, of course, in play for these drivers. It's Porsche 1 through 5, then a couple of Lamborghinis, a BMW, out the rest of the top 10, and the first of the Audis. Running down in 11th position. Battle, though, for 4th position, while Alfonso in the Olympus Esports car has got, well, traffic going around the outside. We've already seen how dangerous that can be in these GTDs, which always want to wash out, but he's got to watch as Joe Newman tries to work his way on forward. When you see the traffic going the long way around, when you see traffic making mistakes like they do in front, that's Laboudelet, I think, trying to work his way forward on Taylor Mills. It sometimes makes you a little uncomfortable, and you've got to remember that you're just running your racing line for the most part. At this level, though, Ryan, that's where, you talk to some of these top-level drivers in the IMSA esports and the likes. Sometimes you don't just run your racing line. Sometimes you slam the door shut on a prototype trying to do something silly.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing as well with when you're racing a big series. Sometimes it probably doesn't sound good, but sometimes you've got to be selfish in a way, because especially you're running your own race, and you've got to be selfish, and this is one of those things that when you're racing in a big series.
We've got drivers up as high as 10,500 I rating, and then drivers a little lower in the pecking order, still higher than the average by a while in terms of 3,500, 4,000 I rating. So you've got your Alexander Spetzers, your Casey Kerwins, your Jaden Munoz. Jaden Munoz, I don't know when he dropped below 10,000 I rating, but apparently he's 9,983. I'm going to have to go and look. At one point, Ryan, there were 5 drivers who had 11K I rating, and 37 drivers that had more than 10,000 I rating. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's absolutely unreal. I was looking at, I can't remember where I saw it. I was looking at a list of drivers with basically 10,000 I rating, or basically 10,000 I rating or more, and it's just unbelievable. It makes me wonder how some drivers have so much time to do racing on iRacing and have that amount of I rating. But when I first heard about, I think it was Max Benica had when he got to 10,000 I rating, I thought that's absolutely nuts.
Yes, no, and again, he was so kind when he did go to 11K to drop his I rating down to keep the nickname. Oh, Alfonso gets a little bit physical, tries to give a bit of a shove there to Joe Newman out of the corner, but Newman holds on to 4th spot as well. Great fighting as they come towards what will be probably 3 or so laps to go. There's a nice little late dive and no traffic to take advantage of, just bravery on the brakes between the two of them. Leaders coming back around to take what will be 2 laps to go, by the way, so time starting to tick away. We're down now, by the way, to just is it 3 drivers with more than 11,000 I rating. A couple have taken a bit of a unfortunate hit in the iRating capacity recently, it would seem. We do, though, still have 37 drivers with more than 10,000 iRating. So that is ridiculous, and it speaks of the high level that we have across of the board here on iRacing nowadays. It does look a little bit dark, though. It's almost like Ryan, end of the season. It's looming menacingly, rain in the distance.
Yep, and I can't wait for next season, and basically rain coming to the iRacing service. It's something I've been looking forward to for a long time, and I think, like I said at the start of the broadcast, it should shake up the races, and it'll be one of those things as well. When making setups for races that might have rain, what do you go with, a dry setup? Do you kind of go with a setup for in between, for maybe a bit of dry running, but also wet running? It's going to make doing setups, especially for some of these top teams, a big task and a little bit more difficult.
It's going to be interesting. Hopefully we get it turned on for Sebring, and it's turned on in such a way that it ruins all sorts of strategies and makes things as difficult and unpredictable as possible for those behind the scenes trying to make everything work. Race leaders just got one more lap to go. Next time by. Where are your other race leaders? There is Benjamin Frigiero, so not far behind the GTP overall race leader as Casey Kerwin slips on through on him. Kerem Havers, though, is just out of the village section and out in towards Brooklands and Luffield, so he will have a lap and a half to go, including this half lap that he's still got left to go. It's been a quiet day for him, though, which I don't think he'll be complaining about, Ryan. That's what you want in the GTDs.
Absolutely. A quiet race is not always a bad thing. It gives you the chance to focus on your race, and it decreases the chances of being caught up in an incident. And Kerem has just he's one of those drivers I've watched before. He's always impressed me. But he's also one of those drivers. I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in a good way as well. That flying under the radar is always a good thing. It just allows you to do your own race and do your job.
Yep. Has slowly but steadily built that gap back out to Maciek Milnik as well. Ilya Sepkalo was trying to close in one point of the race, of course, but unfortunately has not gone in his direction as they come towards the end of this season. Of course, Friday night prime time, going to be interesting what we choose to cover next season. It might be something with rain, probably. But of course, so much new content coming, so much excitement to be had because, Ryan, many people end up taking time off during week 13 to have some fun. What's the first thing you're going to try? Have you already decided?
There's only one thing I'm going to try when it gets released in iRacing, not say rain obviously, but what car I'll test the rain out is I'm undecided, but I'm actually tempted to take a vintage car out in the rain and try it, something like a Lotus 49 or an Audi GTO or Nissan GTP. But I think I'm just looking forward to trying it out, to be honest. Alexander Spett's coming across to take the win now, Arjuna.
Yep, it's Williams, at least one. Jaden Munoz, unfortunately, with a slight issue, meaning we don't get to see a great finish. Alexander Spets ensures Williams Esports end 2024 Season 1 on top. Casey Curran grabs second. Jaden Munoz rounds out the podium. And then Benjamin Frigiero winning in the LMP2 class puts Race Clutch on top of the podium in the category. Yeah, I think personally I might go Daytona, one of the GTP cars, of course, that will be available with the rain. Let us know what you're going to be driving come next week when Tempest is available for everybody. GTD leader, as mentioned, still has some ways to go before we'll see them cross the line. LMP2, it's going to be a fight to the line between a couple, and Sylvain Moraine, Sando Scu are going to tangle up with one another. And around goes the number 30, and now going to try and back its way up to avoid causing any more chaos. It just unfortunately runs out of time to be able to work his way on forward. Sadicus Trivets going to get up to 9th in the closing stages. So a rather intriguing one as the final GTD contenders will come to the line. And let you know, wow, Alfonso, I'm pretty sure Ryan ran out of fuel and will not see the checkered flag.
Oh, that was a big blow. He was doing well, and yeah, maybe just basically went the wrong way in his fuel calculations. But yeah, as we ride on board with him now, just cruising around, and yeah, that's got to be gut wrenching.
It happens to the best of us, don't worry. We've talked about it a lot. There's Kerem Havers, who I think has played it so close. He gets to the line instantly, pulls it back to pit lane on the flatbed, and so do a handful of the contenders behind him. So it clearly shows just how marginal they were on fuel in that GTD class. We'll get the final drivers across the line. We'll get the results on screen. And we'll wrap up Friday Night Primetime for yet another fantastic season following this IMSA iRacing series. All the drivers have crossed the line. We can gander over to the results, and it's a horde of Acuras at the front. I wonder if that's the technical term for them. Alexander Spets, 5 seconds clear of Casey Kerwin, with Jaden Munoz dropping down after his entanglement after his pit stop to third. Diego Merli fourth. Kostiantin Romanenko fifth, with Thomas Labudale, long pit stop for him, dropping him back to sixth. Alexis Henry, Taylor Mills, and then Luca Penachia down in ninth. First non-Acura, along with Antoine Blankers in the Porsche, round out your top 10. Davy van der Wacker, Marnix de Witt, and then Maxime Gauthier and Ryan O'Connor all see the end. Rafael Pisani needs an extra stop and finishes 3 laps down. And George Sazonov, unfortunately, a DNF, 9 laps adrift from your leader. In the Spec LMP2 class with the Dallara LMP2 machine, Benjamin Frigero victorious by almost 6 seconds from Ari Korkadilos, bringing up the gap in the closing stages of this race. Gabriel Roos pitted early and holds on to his podium spot in front of Ruben Lasso, Alexei Nogue, Matthias Bortej, and then Sandor Skuhuf is in front of Matthew Sadigas, Trivet, George Robinson, and Sylvain Moraine, down in 11th for Vince Cusi, 12th for Ewan Marshall, at the very end of the LMP2 field. GTDs, Kerem Halberts in the Team 75 Bernard by SimRC machine. Only 3 seconds clear of Maciek Milnek, Ilya Spetskalo, along with Joe Newman and Jerome Charvet, round out your top 5. And then, as mentioned, maybe doing an additional lap than they expected. Caught some drivers out. Wow Alfonso scored 6th after not seeing the checkered flag. Vinicius Neto, and then Henry Jarvalainen, Chris Verrajonio, and then Leon Kola round out the top 10. And then through the field, Noel Jenkinson, Damir Makhtumov, Tom Brown, Danny Sabi, Dan Carpenter, Adrian Hetstead, and Hoib Schurig round out your GTD contingent. And of course, let's not forget, fastest lap of the race going the way of Alexander Spets. So that's another season officially in the books. Ryan, it's been a wild season following this IMSA iRacing series across what was a very, very unpredictable schedule in many ways. Of course, next season it will sync up a little bit more with some of the real trips that the series has. And of course, if anyone wants to jump onto iRacing, there's never been a better time, because next week's a great time to jump in and just have some fun.
Absolutely, yeah, that schedule as you see on the screen right now. But yeah, it's been an absolutely great schedule, great racing at each track, and yeah, looking forward to next season already, and especially with the additional rain as well. That should it's going to make the racing really good, and I'm interested to see what the feedback's like when it gets released and what people think of it. But myself personally, I'm looking forward to it, and I think basically I think for the races as well, it should make them exciting.
Well, that's the season done and dusted. That's our coverage wrapped up as well. And we can't wait to see you in 2024, Season 2, to do this all over again. Don't forget to join our Discord, racespot.wtf/Discord, to make sure you're connected to us, or via social media, to know what will be coming up in our coverage of Friday Night Primetime moving forward. For the entire team behind the scenes, too many commentators, too many producers that have made all of this possible. But for Ryan Walker alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, we sign off from the home of British motorsports and look forward to the dawn of the new era of iRacing, the rain era, coming soon to Friday Night Primetime.